come up. She's going to talk to us for a little while. We're going to have to talk to her a little bit, so please prepare yourselves for that. But it's all Meera time, ladies and gentlemen. Come on up.
Okay. Hi, everybody. How are y'all doing? So I'm here, and I'm really freaked out, and I feel really afraid, which is okay, because I'm here to talk to you guys about being afraid. Because I feel like I'm going to throw up, I'm going to turn it over to you guys for a minute. So I want to ask you, who here has ever felt afraid? Can you raise your hands? Yeah, me too. Me too. Who here has felt afraid in the last week? Me too. Can you raise your hand if you feel your fears are mostly work-related? Are they about your career? About having a job? Doing well in the job? Yeah. Can you raise your hand if your fears feel related to your creativity? What you're able to offer in your work? And one that I feel a lot, and I'm wondering if you guys do too, is does anybody feel afraid of all the stuff you haven't done yet? Yeah. So when Colin came to me and he was like, hey, I think you should do a talk, I felt excited, but also really afraid. And so I said no. And so, because he's Colin, he asked me again a couple months later. And I said, yeah, I'm going to think about it. And I thought about it for a little bit, and then I was like, I'm too scared for that. And then he came to me this year, and he said, listen, you like water, right? You paint with watercolor, you use water to like mix it up, you're cool with water. I want you to talk about water. And this time I said, okay. I said yes, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna talk about water. But the truth is that I'm really afraid of water. And like I mentioned, I'm a scared person. I feel a lot of fear every day. And I spend a lot of time with it. I sit with my fear, I talk to it, I ask it what it's trying to show me, what I can learn from it. And one of the questions I keep coming back to is, after 20, 25 years of talking to my fear, of really acknowledging it and listening to it, why do I still feel so afraid? If fear is an obstacle that maybe I can overcome, then how come by now I haven't been able to do that? I'm afraid of water because I love it. And I'm afraid of water the way you're afraid of things that you love a lot, because you've invested so much into them. I'm afraid of water because it's majestic and it's beautiful and it has a lot of the qualities that I wish that I had. I grew up in Little Silver, New Jersey, and it's a tiny, tiny town on the New Jersey shore, and it's 3 miles. That's it, 3 square miles, and it's 5 miles from the Atlantic Ocean. So we spent all of our time at the beach. My dad would come home from work, we'd pile in the car after school, and we'd go to the beach. And we'd play in the water, and we played in the sand, and we'd climb all the rocks, and those are some of the best days of my childhood that I can remember. And my parents decided very early on that me and my sister had to learn how to swim. We were surrounded by water, we spent so much time near it, in it, and they wanted us to be safe. But swimming didn't come easy for me. It's a lot of synchronization. It's a lot of, you move your arms and you kick your legs at the same time, and you gotta pull your head up out of water so you breathe and you don't choke on the water, and it didn't make sense to me, that it didn't fit. And I knew that it was a lot like math. I knew that there was a formula, and if I applied it to the equation and I practiced over and over again, that one day it would click and it would make sense. And so I learned how to swim. When I was 6, I was in the Brownies preparing to be a Girl Scout, and my troop leader had a pool party at her house, and I was stoked. It was my first pool party, and I felt that nervous excitement that you feel when you're little and you're going to experience something awesome for the first time. And I was scared, but I was going to go. I decided I was going to go. I'm going to go to the pool party. I'm going to be one of the kids at the party. And I remember laying on my back on this hot pink floaty, enjoying the sun, and feeling really proud of myself because I had worked up the courage to go, to be there, to do something that I was afraid of. And I felt like I was on this grand adventure at this pool party, and I felt really good. And then all of a sudden, I was underwater. And the water was against me, and I was moving my arms and moving my legs the way the coach had told me how. But I wasn't getting any closer to the surface. I was going deeper and deeper into the water, and I couldn't breathe, and I was choking on water. Fear is born in the mind. It is designed to protect you and to keep you safe. And when something happens that makes you feel afraid, fear sends a signal to your brain and to your nervous system, and it says, help, do something, I'm in danger. Your body floods with adrenaline. Adrenaline kicks you into gear. It gives you the energy needed for your arms and your legs to move, to get you out of the danger that you're in, or many times the perceived danger that you're in. Your heart beats faster and faster, and your breath is shallower, and your mind goes blank. You don't know what to do, what to say, how to act. Or, for some people, your mind is chaos. There's too many things going on at once. Either way, the idea that everything will be okay again is unfathomable. And this panic, this not knowing what to do or what decision to make or how to move, this paralysis of living under fear is what I had decided to let guide me for most of my life. One of the biggest sources of fear is the imposter syndrome. The imposter syndrome is designed to make you feel like a failure. The imposter syndrome tells you that what you're doing is not good enough, even when it's your very best, and even when your very best is beyond good enough. I worked at a technical publishing company for 7 years, editing papers written by electrical engineers. And the whole time I was doing this, I was also working full-time as an artist and writer. And I wouldn't leave because I felt really afraid. When somebody asked me what I did for a living, where I worked, I said, I work at a publishing company. I didn't say I own my own business. When somebody said how I spent my time at work, I said, I edit these papers. Engineers write them, and I edit them. And I didn't say, I'm a writer, I'm an artist. I write books that help explain who we are, why we are the way that we are, what we believe in as people. The imposter syndrome is composed of 3 things: desire, fear, and unworthiness. Desire is what you hold dear to you. It's your greatest wish. It's what you most want for yourself or for the world. And my desire at that time was to be an artist, to make work from the heart and hope that it would find somebody else's heart. Fear works in 2 ways. It either tells you that because you have decided to be vulnerable with your desire, because you have dared to say it out loud, this is what I want, it scares you and it says, well, you might fail if you try to get that. So maybe, hold back. Don't go after that dream. Or what I think is worse, if the dream does come true, it tries to convince you that you were unworthy of that achievement. That despite all of your hard work, this achievement came to you because of luck or because of somebody else's good grace, not because you deserve it and because you earned it. I was unsure of my achievements for a very long time. I thought that somebody would discover that I was fraudulent, that they would read a book and see that I'm not a real writer. I'm not a very good writer. I got lucky that I got a publisher to give me a couple of book deals. I'm not a real artist because I didn't go to art school. I don't have the technical skill that students have. I don't know much about art history or color theory. And so I didn't admit it to myself or to the world that I was an artist. I made art. I was a writer. I wrote things. I had something in me that was worth sharing. The imposter syndrome takes your biggest insecurities and convinces you that they are the truth. It keeps you from making your best work and from being who you truly are, because you don't always believe that you're worthy of being that person. The imposter syndrome takes chances away from you. It doesn't allow you to tap into your full potential, your creativity. It scares you from even trying. So the next time you feel the imposter syndrome, I really want you guys to ask yourself, are there parts of your life that are currently on hold because of fear? If you feel like an imposter, I want you to ask yourself, do I deserve this opportunity? Have I worked hard for it? Why does it feel unearned? It took me a long time to say these words out loud, that I am a writer, I am an artist, I make work that is of value. I find something that is inside of me, and I do the hard work to bring it out to all of you. The second time I learned how to swim, I was 11. And this time I was super determined. I'm really, really, really going to learn this time. I promised myself. But a lot of time had passed. I hadn't spent much time in the water since the drowning incident, and I was a little bit more afraid of it now, and I was really afraid of drowning. The ocean is so beautiful to me because it is confident. It is so sure of itself. It doesn't have to wonder what it is or what its purpose is. And I wanted to feel that confident. I wanted to feel that confident in my body. I wanted to feel that confident in the water. And I really wanted to learn how to swim. However, by this age, fear had developed a lot of different faces. I was 11. I was at the age where I was becoming cognizant of how different I was from everybody else in my town. It was a very small town. It was a very white town. We were the only brown family, and I became aware of this. I'm brown. I'm Indian. I speak a different language at home. And when I was born, I had a few corrective surgeries to ensure that I could walk. And because of that, I had a lot of scars, like zippers, up and down the back of my legs. This last insecurity, this physical insecurity, it's what I hung on to, and I let it embed itself deeply inside me. I didn't wear shorts, I didn't wear bathing suits, and I definitely was not taking myself to the beach. I lived in this fear. I ignored it, and I let it consume me. I let it grow larger than it had ever been before. and I lived under the weight of it. Fear has the power to stop us daily. It can stop us physically, emotionally, and creatively. We ignore it because it feels defeating. It feels like a weakness to say out loud, I feel scared. So we ignore it, and we stick to comfort because comfort doesn't disappoint us, and it doesn't hurt us. It's comfort. It's comfortable. You feel all right. And over time, all right becomes our default. I avoided water because I was avoiding drowning. And I thought that that was the smart, pragmatic thing to do, to keep myself safe. But what I didn't realize was that by ignoring my fear, I was allowing it to multiply. My fear had multiplied from this simple fear of drowning into the fear of unacceptance, the fear of being seen, the fear of rejection. Fear is quiet, and if you don't talk to it, if you don't draw it out of its quietness, if you let it cover you, pretty soon it becomes difficult for you to recognize it. It becomes difficult to determine, am I living within fear, or is this a choice that I'm making on my own? If you live within its boundaries, you live in a safe world, which is nice. You want to be safe. But it's an unchallenging world, and it's far smaller than the world you could be living in otherwise. When you feel unsure of it, if you're living in fear, if you're making choices out of fear, I want you guys to ask yourself, do I feel whole? Have I experienced the entire spectrum of human emotion? Is it okay that I feel nervous? Is it okay that I feel afraid? Is it okay for me to go on regardless of feeling these things? Can I say that I tried my hardest? Or am I simply holding myself back because I'm scared? If the answer to those questions is mostly no, then I don't think that being scared or blaming your fear is a good reason to keep your world small. Living in fear doesn't stretch us. You miss out on the wonders in the world, and you miss out on the wonders inside of you that you could discover if you dared to look for them. When you shrink one area of your life, every other area suffers too. If you can live with fear, though, if you can open your arms to it, if you can embrace it, if you can invite it to come a little bit closer, to ask it questions, to examine it, to understand what it's trying to teach you, because it's always trying to teach you something. If you can do that, then the impossible can happen. Fears are affirmations of what you most want out of your life, what you most want out of yourself, and what kind of relationships you want, what you want to see. It's always telling you what's important to you. It highlights what you most want out of your life. Things that you haven't even dared to dream of, dreams that feel so far away or too large or too out of your hands, these are all possible when you open yourself up to your fear. I still see my scars as marks of imperfection. But what has changed for me is what imperfection means to me. When I ignored my fear and lived under it and lived behind it, my scars were symbols of shame. They were things that needed to hide, that couldn't see the light, and that certainly couldn't be seen by anybody else. But when I live with my fear, alongside it, as an equal, and when I listen to it, I learned that my imperfections are marks of beauty. They are what separate me from you. They are what prevent me from being anybody else, and that's a beautiful thing. My scars have allowed me to walk, to stand here, to be here with all of you. They have made me the artist that I am, the writer that I am. They allow me to make the work that I make. They have forced me to become a much greater and empathetic person than I would have been otherwise. They allow me to connect to you. So now, I go to the beach. And if you listen and you talk to your fear and you interact with it and you're curious with it, your whole world can open up and become so much larger. When I listened to my fear, I realized that what broke my heart the most was spending time in a way that was meaningless to me. So after 7 years at my full-time job, I decided to leave and pursue a life as a full-time artist. Thanks, you guys. When I listened to my fear, I recognized that what I was most afraid of in my life was not having a variety of experiences, from not seeing what the world has to offer, because I am afraid. So after living on the East Coast for 30 years, I packed up my life and I started over here in Nashville. When I listened to my fear, it told me that being unaccepted and being unloved, I was afraid of those things far more than I was afraid of being alone. So I left the relationship I was in, and I focused on accepting myself. I was in a place where I could barely look in the mirror. I didn't like what I saw. And if I didn't like what I saw, how could anybody else like what they saw? So I learned what I loved about myself, and I found out that that was most of it. I like myself a whole lot. And I worked on accepting myself, which is a whole different animal. And then I did. And when I did that, I happened to find the man that I'm going to marry. When I listened to my fear, I realized that worse than rejection was not giving anybody the opportunity to accept me. So I wrote an entire book on how afraid I really am, and I published it for the whole world to read. When I listened to my fear, I knew that worse than not being a swimmer was not giving myself the chance, the opportunity to learn. Getting to know your fear is a process, like everything else in life. It requires curiosity. When you feel something that feels foreign or uncomfortable or new, it's taking the time and the patience to say, what am I feeling right now? Is this fear? Is this anxiety? Why am I afraid? What would I do if I didn't feel afraid right now? Who could I be if I gave myself the chance to live without this fear? What would I dream if I wasn't scared? If there's something important in your life right now that you really feel is worth pursuing, and the only thing holding you back is that you feel so afraid of rejection, afraid of loss, afraid of failure, I really want to tell you that's not good enough anymore. You have to try, and you have to try over and over again. I'm 31 now, and in January, I signed up for swimming lessons. This is my third time, almost 20 years since I last tried to learn, but it feels a little bit different now. The first time I went to Coleman Community Center where I swim, I felt super anxious, and I felt these anxieties, these insecurities that have lived with me for so long that feel almost comfortable to me now, where I notice when they're not there, hey, where'd that insecurity go? They came back. They said, what if somebody sees you? What are they going to think? What if they don't like how you look? And then my insecurities question my ability. You're too old to learn. That 12-year-old is definitely going to swim laps around you. What if you can't learn? What if you don't have the ability to change and adapt anymore? I felt that maybe things will never be different. Maybe I'm never going to be a swimmer and the water just isn't for me. But I lowered myself into the pool, and the water quieted my mind the way only water can. And I felt a little bit of shame at this point because I felt terrible that I had kept myself from something that I had loved for so long. But I lowered myself into the pool, and the water did what it does, and it quieted all the anxieties. And I felt beautiful and confident and able. And I felt certain that, yes, I can grow and change and learn. And after 31 years of feeling fear and shame and anxiety when it came to water, I felt really, really free. Thank you.